Can we all mute ourselves and go on video off mode except the doctor, everybody else? So good evening everyone. Warm welcome to the session. I am Bhumika Patel. I am the founder of Guide Runners India, and welcome to the virtual emergency support guide certification program. We have completed the batch 1, which was with 50 people, and all of you in the current batch have been doing very well with the quizzes, so continue to do that because we need to complete the quizzes to finish the course. And I wanted to announce a very special initiative we have with the summer interns and volunteers that we have started. The entire process that we are teaching with the virtual emergency support is being programmed, is being coded, and we will come out with a tool which will be helping you do the support work very efficiently. And we have summer interns from US and India already started on the work. So in case anybody would like to join, please message me. So this is also, today as a part of the batch 2, session 3, we have Dr. Bhaskar, who is with us. He has been very inspiring, front-ending a lot of work with the COVID related situation right now. And a little bit about his running. He has completed 45 half marathons, and he has also completed 3 full marathons. He's also a gold medalist in MD Pathology from MS University, Baroda, and he is a technical advisor to NABL. So NABL is an accreditation for medical testing of laboratories of RT-PCR, RNA, COVID-19 related testing, also for NABH. So I just read up about it. NABH is a constituent board of Quality Council of India set up to establish and operate accreditation programs for healthcare organizations. So very warm welcome to you, Dr. Bhaskar, and over to you. I want to just begin by asking you about what are the basic precautions everybody should take in terms of the COVID-19, and are there any additional measures that people with vision impairment should follow, since there is a lot of dependency that they have on touching objects when they move around. So over to you, doctor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me for this session. And first and foremost, the basic thing for regarding the general precautions are first is to wear a good quality mask, maintain a social distance of at least 2 meters, that is 6 feet. Most of the guidelines suggest a 1 meter, that is 3 feet. But for a safer side, it is always advisable to maintain a distance of at least 2 meters, that is 6 feet. And regular hand sanitization by 70% minimum alcohol regularly. Whenever you touch any unknown object or any unknown surface, when you visit a different places to buy some grocery or milk or anything, so if you encounter such unknown place, unknown people or unknown surfaces or unknown objects, sanitize your hand with 70% alcohol. And these are three mainstay of general precautions. So sanitization of hand regularly, maintain a social distance of at least 2 meters, and then most important, to wear a mask.
Sorry, doctor, can you come closer to the speaker because there is some audio issue.
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
So these are three mainstay of general precautions, and particularly in visually challenged, they have a lot of what you call as a dependency in some instances. So they have to maintain all these general precautions. Apart from, they have to have proper.
Can you hold the speaker close to your face so that it's
Yeah, it's close only. I think.
okay?
Yeah.
Is it fine now, guys?
Am I audible to all of you? Uh, you can write in chat box.
Yeah, fine now, I guess.
Okay. So these are all general precautions. Wear a mask, maintain a social distance, and sanitize your hands frequently when you encounter unknown object or a surface or unknown any place where you go to buy a grocery or a milk or anything. So you need to sanitize your hands frequently. So these are all three main general precautions.
Also, Doctor, regarding testing of COVID-19, what are the different tests which are currently available? And considering different scenarios, like a case with a mild symptom in a normal person, a case with mild symptoms but old age, and old age, and in addition to that, other comorbidities is another scenario. And if it is a case where critical symptoms already developed suddenly, then these scenarios, what is the different testing that is available that they can go for?
Very good question and very important one. So there are different three type of testing available at present. One is the antigen testing, rapid antigen testing. So that is used for surveillance purpose. So you all know that if any apartment or society having more than 3 or 5 cases in single building, so AMC, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, or any other corporation, usually they send their health staff to screen the people or the residents of that particular building, and they do this surveillance by rapid antigen testing. So that is an antigen test which has a sensitivity of 34% to 80%. So it is, and the result will come within 30 minutes. So it's a good test for surveillance purpose, but it is not the diagnostic test. It is used to for mass screening. The false negativity of this rapid antigen test is also an issue. So if your antigen test is negative, that doesn't mean the patient doesn't have a COVID-19 virus. 25 to 30% patient having rapid antigen test negative also have a COVID-19. So rapid antigen test negative and having symptoms of COVID like fever, throat pain, cough, diarrhea, loss of smell, loss of taste, extreme weakness, easy fatigability. If the patient having all those symptoms, any of them, and even if there is a rapid antigen test negative, then you should always go for a confirmatory test, and that is a second type of test that is called RT-PCR for COVID-19, where the sample is taken from nose and throat through a swab stick, and it has been transported to the viral transport media, and that is called RT-PCR, reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction test, which is a good sensitive test, and it is a confirmatory test. At present, this is the test considered to be a gold standard test, and once this test is positive, then only the case is counted as positive in government machinery. Okay, so this is the second type of test, which is RT-PCR test. But even in RT-PCR test, if you go for testing in very early stage of appearance of symptoms, like initial 3 to 4 days, up to 3 to 4 days, these tests might come negative even if the patient has COVID-19. There are few reasons for that. Patient may have a low viral load, or patient, there will be an issue regarding the sample collection technique also. So each test has its own value at particular juncture and particular purpose. The third type of test is an antibody test. Antibody test is basically used to see how many people in the community are already infected with COVID-19 and already immune to COVID-19. So these tests come positive only after 7 to 10 days of exposure. So if you antibody test is not used for diagnosis, it is used only to see the how many population in the community is, how many percentage of population in the community is already immune or already infected with coronavirus. Like the study from the Delhi screening is there that they came out with 23% of population of Delhi has been gone, is already immune to the COVID-19. So their sample size is 21,893, which is not representative of the whole Delhi population, but they collect the sample from different zones and then they do they have done this test. So this antibody test is basically, the purpose is totally different. So all three tests, the antigen test, first result come within 30 minutes, used for surveillance. RT-PCR test is a confirmatory test, gold standard test, and the third is antibody test used for mass screening that previous exposure to the COVID-19 has been done or not. So these are the three type of tests. Now the second part of the question is the patient having mild symptoms and having comorbidity like diabetes and blood pressure. So all the patients above 55 or 60 years having diabetes or hypertension or any other comorbidity like cancer or kidney failure, they should not be treated at home. All such patients should be hospitalized because these all comorbidities lead to lower immune status of this patient. So the COVID-19, the coronavirus, will have a major serious complication may appear in these kind of patients. So any patients above 50 years or 55 years having comorbidity like diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, or kidney failure like that, they, even if they have a mild symptom and if they turn out positive, they should be treated at hospital only.
So is there also a test to check whether the plasma donor is eligible now after recovering?
So that is antibody test basically.
Okay, that is antibody.
Antibody test. After 28 days of your completion of therapy, you can go for antibody test, and if your antibody is positive and you are totally asymptomatic and you don't have any biomarkers of COVID-19 positive in your blood reports, then you can be a donor for a plasma therapy.
So I see a lot of WhatsApp messages asking for plasma donors floating around. So what kind of is that a treatment commonly used, or in what cases it's coming?
Actually, the plasma therapy, the role of plasma therapy is very restricted. It is used in only those patients who are critically ill, and those who are not responding. Patients are on ventilatory supports, and those who are not responding to the conventional protocols has been laid by the ICMR and WHO, not responding to such treatment. Plasma therapy would be tried in such patients, and many of the patients can be benefited, but it is totally a individual case-based scenario. You cannot say that.
What are the costs involved in these tests that we mentioned just now? I mean,
rapid antigen test is not available for private labs. It is only with government machinery. So there is no what you called, when you become a candidate for a screening purpose in your society or apartment through government machinery, it's totally free. The RT-PCR test, which is a gold standard test, is initially it was 4,500 rupees, but now the government has kept the price and it is 3,000 rupees for the patients for the home visit, and patients who are walking to the lab for giving a sample, 2,500 rupees, 500 rupees for those patients. Okay. So, and if you go through a government machinery like Urban Health Center of any corporation or in a government hospital, if you are going to the hospitals, government hospitals, then testing will be totally free. The cost will be bared by the government of that particular state only.
Okay. So once we test, somebody tests positive, so what are the next steps for the patient with respect to self-assessment, informing others, quarantining, medical care, etc.? So, and what measures are required by the family members, immediate measures? And what about the people who have come in contact with the person who is positive?
Very good question. So the first and foremost thing, if somebody knows that they already become positive, then the first step is we need to listen our body signals. We have to narrate what kind of symptoms we are facing since last 24 hours. Either it is a fever, common cold, cough, or throat pain, or diarrhea. We have to recall the history of contact if possible. So we need to recall that in last 3 or 4 days, is there any kind of movement outside the home for a job purpose or a business purpose where we are encountered with anybody's in a close contact? If possible, we have to recall it, because that is important to see that from where we are exposed, from when we are exposed, and the days are counted on that base. The incubation period of the virus is 14 days. So it starts from the exposure to manifestation of the symptom. So we need to recall how the contact has been occurred, how we exposed, and then immediately we have to contact our family physician, family doctor, ask them that you are feeling such symptoms. Once your test is positive, you need to inform them. Then you need to inform your family members. You have to self quarantine immediately with your attached toilet, bathroom, room, one room which have all these facility. And if you don't have such facility, immediately you need to quarantine at hospital or a hotel quarantine. There are all kind of facilities already provided by the government, local government. There are hotel quarantine facility also. There are hospital quarantine facilities also. So if you are feeling that I'm not able to isolate myself completely with the other family members, or I may come into contact and may risk their body, then you can immediately consult your family physician or a doctor who advise you a test. So he will guide you about.
Just want to interrupt here about you said that the patient needs to make recall who all he has come in contact. So this is a personal responsibility. You are talking about person doing it himself, right?
Yeah.
And not waiting for somebody to call to ask a question that how many people did you. So he makes a note, and that family members would all get together and contact the people who have come in contact. It's a social personal responsibility.
Yeah. You see, it's not what you call the patient should come out positively. He should be understand that it's his moral responsibility to come out and say that my taste is positive, so that the other person in the family members, in the community, those who was in contact, so they should also inform. Like a person A is become positive, and in last 48 hours, if he is in contact with 5, 6 people in a close contact where he doesn't don't wear a mask or not maintain a proper social distance or not take a proper sanitization measures, then his responsibility to inform all those 5, 6 people that see, my test is positive and I was in contact with you yesterday or day before yesterday. So kindly watch your body signals, and if you find any symptoms of COVID, then you also contact your doctor and go for testing. It is a social and moral responsibility of that individuals, not only for family members, for the social as a social responsibility to all whom he came into contact. So see, people are afraid, they anxious that corporation staff will come with ambulance and they will carry you to the hospital, and they put a big label on your house that quarantine house and your name and all that. See, this is basically a protocol which has been taken by government so that everybody else in the apartment or society can understand that there is a house in an apartment where there is one COVID positive patient. So other society members are taken care of that thing. So like common amenities like lift can be sanitized, a park, a bench, so a gym of the society, or the other common amenities which can be used by all other members of the society, or that.
What is the how quick should the sanitization occur? Like I did somebody detected positive, so in order to protect the other family members, how what is the time lag time between the sanitization and the
As early as possible. When you come to know, you need to inform the AMC, and you because AMC has a very quick response team. Once you inform that this is the house where one of the family member came positive, so the government takes the initiative and they ask you about the location and address and all that, and within 24 hours they came to, and mostly they came within 6 to 8 hours only, and they also help you to guide you how to sanitize the whole society and the apartment, and the whole team came and they do the all common amenities sanitization.
So what is the solution? What is the disinfection, percentage, the solution that is being used here?
So it is different,
Percentage of
different by different corporations. Sodium hypochlorite can be used, chlorhexidine can be used. It depends on the availability of the chemical and the protocols of that local corporation. So
Okay.
but they are see, surface contamination of transmission through surface contamination is very less.
Yeah.
You see the COVID-19 disease, the transmission, the main route is through droplets, and that through cough and sneezing. So the respiratory droplets, which are expelled through the positive patient, they come into contact with the nose and mouth of the other person, or you come into the direct contact, or that droplets can drop down at some surface, and you touch that surface, and that hand comes into your nose and mouth. So that is how the main route of transmission is there. Surface contamination is less, but it is there. So sanitization of the local area, local part is important. So these are the
Also in terms of, also if some two people in the, like a husband and wife in the house are both positive, will the government the government officials allow them to quarantine at home, or they have to mandatory shift outside positive, or everybody in the house is positive?
that depends on how many supporting hand in that house. If the
If there's
husband
no
wife both,
support, yeah.
if there is no support, then ideally they should be quarantined at hospital or a hotel quarantine, which are the depending upon their symptoms.
But
Like
is it mandatory that they, as per government rule, that they have to shift out?
yeah.
Because there's also a concern on budget part where if people can't afford it.
No. Actually, the government facilities are totally free. The
Yeah.
quarantine centers are totally free. So if you go through a government channel, you need not to pay anything. Even if they supply you both time meal, then juices and all other supplementary supportive food, immunity boosters also. So it is not like that. And if the both all family members or both members in the family are positive, then it is always advisable to go to the hospital or hotel quarantine facility, where because the cross infection through viral road from one person to another is also a risky. So they should be also separated in a same quarantine center, but on a separate rooms, because
Okay.
two persons viral load may be always mostly different. So the cross contamination, cross infection through one person to another person may happen. So high viral load individual can transmit to the another person in the family. So it is always advisable to go for a hospital or
Also, there's a lot of fear among people across socioeconomic strata in our society about COVID-19, and they people keep it to themselves. They don't want to talk about it. So, what is your thoughts about that?
yeah, it's many times it happens that people don't came out about their actual status of COVID-19 because of they think that there will be a lot of issue regarding cost involved, and we need to be quarantined and we are detached from family, and somebody came and they put a big board in the society and everybody so they go away from us, and all that. That social stigma is still there in a certain community, and at many level, at many cities, even in a well-developed cities like Ahmedabad also. Like they are afraid to think that they don't want to disclose their COVID-19 status, but it is not like that. So cost, if you go to the urban health center, see, Ahmedabad is divided into different wards. And every ward, like Jodhpur ward, Bodakde ward, Satellite ward, Paldi, Narayanpura, Navarampura, every ward has an urban health center. And if you go, any person can go and walk in with urban health center having symptoms of COVID, or he feel like symptoms of COVID. So urban health center medical officer can examine there. And if he feels that this patient needs a COVID testing, So he advised the COVID testing. Their COVID testing will be totally done free. And after that, if the patient come positive, they have a separate allocation of AMC occupied bed in that particular zone also, that ward also. Like every ward has a 2 or 3 private hospitals, well, what we call well-equipped hospitals, which have a ICU beds, ventilator beds, HDU units, emergency, everything. And they have already given their almost 50% bed to the AMC. So urban health center medical officer guide them that this is the private hospital in our vicinity area only, where they inquire about the beds there and they guide you that there is a 1, 2 or 3 beds available and you can go there, you can admit yourself there, and there will be no cost involved for the whole therapy of COVID-19, including testing and daily whatever the reports will be done, what are the medications, everything. The total treatment is totally free by AMC and the cost is paid by the municipal corporation only. So it is not like that. It is the lack of information which has not reached sometimes to the common people or a community, so that they are afraid to disclose their status and they thought that if we admit in a private hospital and there will be a huge bill and how can we manage those money and all those. But if
Yeah.
you go through a proper government channel, the cost will be all cost will be bear by government only.
Okay, that's very good. So in what scenarios, like we discussed one scenario where everybody was positive, but what are the other scenarios where positive person has to get admitted to a hospital?
Yeah, there are 3 categories as ICMR has laid down the treatment protocol. So mild symptoms patients and asymptomatic patients, young patients doesn't have any comorbidity like diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, or kidney failure, like any other chronic illness, they can be easily treated at home. So the patients who are young, don't have any comorbidity, and having a very mild symptoms, either only fever or only cough, and their biomedical parameters. They suggest some baseline biomedical profiles in a COVID positive patient, like CBC, C-reactive protein, ferritin, LDH, D-dimer, and urine examination and SGPT create some basic reports. So if person come positive, so this biomedical profile, a flu profile can be done usually as a baseline marker. So a young patient doesn't have any comorbidity and the all biomedical parameters are within almost near to normal. And even if they elevated, but they can be controlled because the patient is young and having a good immune status. So they all patients can be treated at home only. But the only thing is that every every instance of any symptoms or a new symptom develop or any fever episode, they should be in direct contact with your their family doctor, or if you are taking treatment through government, then government staff is also calling every day morning and they ask on phone also in
Yeah.
home quarantine patient about the symptoms, and every third day they make a visit to that patient. They came with ambulance and they came with their staff. They measure what temperature, oxygen saturation by pulse oximeter, the general well-being, temperature, pulse, blood pressure, other things, other complaints. They assess the whole scenario and then they guide according to the treatment. So the young patients don't have a comorbidity. Basic biomedical parameters are within normal.
So with respect to this, what is the you mentioned earlier about flu test and CBC count, and so what is that should be done by anybody who is tested positive as a next step, like as per you?
Yeah. Anybody tested positive should gone through these biomedical parameters. So they basically once they do as a baseline parameter, and then every 72 hours they do these parameters to see the treatment response and the disease progression.
For example, like what are the parameters we are talking about here?
Complete blood count, CBC, then C-reactive protein, then LDH, lactate dehydrogenase level, ferritin level, and then D-dimer level. So these are important parameters. And IL-6, that is a cytokines usually elevated in a aggressive cases or in a moderate cases also to monitor. So these are the parameters once done baseline, and then after every 72 hours, they see, they check this parameter to see the treatment response and the disease progression also. So they will guide the further part of the treatment. So these parameters are usually done every 72 hours in a COVID-19 patient.
Okay. So what about elderly people who have been asymptomatic but tested positive and they're very mild symptoms? So should we keep them at home or should we ship them to the hospital?
Any elderly patient having comorbidity, having diabetes or hypertension or kidney failure or cancer or any other chronic illness of a long time, so they can be ideally not treated at home. They should be admitted in hospital because these patients, due to comorbidity, they have a low immunity status, and the COVID-19 complications are easily occur in these patients. And diabetic patient doesn't have a chances of more COVID infection. But once a COVID-19 occurs in a diabetic patient, the chances of complications are much more. So similarly in other comorbidity, because of low immune status of this elderly patient having comorbidity, they should be ideally treated at hospital only in a close care of doctors.
Okay. We've also got to know about several visually impaired people who are with our Guide Runners India team. We've paired them as phone buddies, and they keep doing the phone buddies keep doing wellness check of these people. So we have found that some of them have tested positive, and they have faced issues with getting admission into the hospital. So how does one deal with it?
Yeah, actually, for a visually impaired or any patients who need have a specific needs, like mentally retarded or have patients having some deformity in hand or leg or any other limb or like that. So there are government guidelines for all those patients having special needs, and there are different hospitals which are NABH accredited in every town now in India, that there are certain NABH accredited hospitals. And NABH is a quality standard which is always mentioned about the care of such patients in their hospitals. So the all hospitals that are NABH accredited, they has to be follow the NABH standard. And in these NABH standards, patient care required for such patients is being very well taken off, like railing bars, toilet having supports. So all those things will be always there in an NABH accredited hospital.
Okay.
So it is not like that in cities now such hospitals are not there. Most of the cities have now NABH accredited hospitals. They will take care of these patients particularly. And in any hospital, even if in a government hospital or a private hospital, no hospital can refuse admission on the basis of such special patients. Those patients are visually impaired or mentally retarded or having some deformity in a hand or other limbs. So any hospital doesn't have any right to refuse the admission on those grounds. You can challenge all those management of that hospitals on those grounds.
Okay. So if a visually impaired is tested positive and the person is 100% blind, cannot see anything, so the obviously the family members cannot accompany. So what should the person, when he's shifting, what should he be aware of? What should he do as a precaution for himself? And what should the family do when about this?
Yeah, once visually impaired become positive, then at least the first and foremost thing is that they have to inform immediately to the other family members. Then the person who became positive, where the premises where he lived, he has to self quarantine, self isolate himself, and then he need to understand that because of visual impairment, he may touch a lot of surfaces what he doesn't know accidentally many times. So self isolation is must, and there should be one person in continuously contact with these patients to guide them about their nutrition, about their daily routine. They need to because these patients need a lot of support many times, not only physical, mental support also. Because we understand that a visually impaired patient will become positive. Even if a healthy patient become positive, there are a lot of anxiety and stress due to the COVID-19, because once they self-isolate, they detach from their own family members, and so there is tremendous stress. And in visually impaired, it is much more higher level. So they can be supported continuously on phone with one of their family members or the guide or somebody who is in a close vicinity whom we rely on. So he has to guide them about regularly and continuously at least 2 to 3 times in a minimum day. He should talk on a phone and assess his mental condition. He has taken a proper food both the time or not. He has taken a proper whatever the difficulties he find in a routine. The guide should be understand all those difficulty and how we can help them in such scenario. We need to identify the ways how we can help you out, help them out. So,
Yeah. So is there any special provisions like for financial assistance or any other tests and treatments that are for visually impaired? How can the guides specifically help them? If you
yeah,
can tell us.
yeah. Any visually impaired or any patients having specific needs or special needs. See, in government hospital, testing and treatment is totally free. You can approach any government hospital through proper channel of urban health center. So the all the testing and then the hospital stay, the medication, the treatment, everything from beginning to the discharge, everything is prepared by the government only. So and if you ask them to tell about the condition whatever the specific needs patient needs, so many of the hospitals they come up with some specific nursing staff allocated to such patients. Like if a ward of 10 patients, and if a one visually impaired or mentally retarded or a patient having special needs has been admitted, so the usually in charge doctor or a in charge sister will allocate a nursing staff and tell them that you need to frequently visit these patients as compared to the other patients, because they need a more support as compared to the normal healthy individuals.
Right.
These kind of things are there, and what we call government is also sensitive about this. One or two maybe may have or we can encounter the instances where we cannot get a good support or like admission and all that. But overall, it is not like that. The government is also sensitive regarding all these issues.
Right. Okay, that's very encouraging to know. So now we can open the forum for questions. If you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask, or put the question in the chat so the doctor can take it up.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, hi doctor. This is Mithil from Ahmedabad.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. So doctor, I have a couple of questions. So these days, as soon as we all encountered that, okay, there is something called coronavirus pandemic, right? There's a whole lot of alternative treatments and alternative therapies that has kind of popped up significantly, be it Ayurveda, be it homeopathy, right? So there are a lot of things that are going around in the market and people are prescribing. Maybe your family prescribes you or your doctor prescribes you. So one of the example is the Giloy tablets or the Sudarshan Ghanvati tablets, which are generally prescribed, right? So I was kind of reading through it. So generally it helps you to kind of lower your symptoms or your feverish condition or your cough, cold and everything. So what do you suggest? Is the consumption of these type of alternative Ayurvedic medicines good? If yes, how one should kind of go about it? And I'm just kind of curious to know this.
Okay. See, these are, as you said, one or two objects. okay, that tablet and all that. These all alternative therapies of Ayurvedic and homeopathic are definitely a immunity booster, but they don't have any direct effect on coronavirus. So, if somebody claims that it cures your COVID-19 or it kills the coronavirus or like that, it is totally wrong. These are basically very good immunity boosters. So, if you
Okay.
take it, they will always going to support your immune status. So, it is always advisable. It is not what you call as a supportive treatment or a support to your immune status. It
Okay.
has no direct impact on coronavirus, but definitely they help in your immunity status to fight the all disease. It helps in fighting your body to all diseases in monsoon like malaria, dengue, everything occurs in monsoon season. So if you take all these alternative medicine from Ayurvedic or homeopathic, it helps in your immunity to boost and it helps you to fight all the disease, not specifically corona. So
Okay.
it doesn't have a direct effect on COVID-19, but definitely advisable to take such immunity boosters, particularly in such scenarios. So it is not, and this medicine doesn't have any side effects. So
Yeah.
you
Okay.
can take it, but you cannot assume that because I am taking it, so I am immune to COVID or मुझे corona नहीं होगा या I am very much now in a position to come out of this virus and all those things.
True. True. Another thing, doctor, that how would one discriminate between a normal body ache and fever kind of a condition vis-a-vis a corona kind of a condition? Because a lot of times pre-corona state, if we see, right, if you have a lot of workload and if you have a lot of exertion, right, you tend to feel like feverish or body ache for the next day or a couple of days, right? And those are the common symptoms what a COVID patient also develops. So how would one discriminate between a normal situation and maybe one has kind of contracted with the virus?
Important question. See, in this monsoon season,
Hmm.
there will be a lot of other infections are already going on every year.
Yeah.
So any fever is not a COVID fever. So to discriminate on an initial base, it's very difficult. But you need to understand the different symptoms of COVID-19.
Hmm.
So fever, if you have a fever of a more than 99 or 101 or like more than 100, and it is persistent, and if you are taking your conventional treatment from your family doctor,
Hmm.
and if it is not subside by that normal conventional treatment, or a fever of more than 2 days, persistent fever, spikes on these 248 hours, then you should immediately contact your doctor. Then the doctor is the best judge to guide you that you need to go for further investigation of COVID-19 or
Hmm.
any other illness. Because fever, a normal layman or a community person cannot discriminate the kind of fever, the type of fever, the spikes of fever, how many duration it remains, and what kind of different other symptoms associated with fever. So these are the basically it's a what we call as a all signals you need to take care. So you need to any fever not subsided by 24 hours, you
Hmm.
should immediately consult your family doctor. Ask them that this is the situation. I have a heavy workload or what kind of what you described, and
Hmm.
I am getting backache or body ache or fever or fatigue. So he is the best judge. He will examine you, he will guide you, and then he will suggest you some basic investigation, as I told you, like CBC and C-reactive protein and some flu markers and all that. And
Hmm.
by on the basis of that investigation, he can easily come to know that this is not COVID-19 or this is maybe COVID-19. If it is
Got.
maybe COVID-19, he will go further, investigate you with the other test like RT-PCR, what I said you for nasal and
Hmm.
spot swab for
Hmm.
confirmatory. But your
Hmm.
basic reports
Hmm.
are by examining the family doctor. If he suggest you some basic reports, and all these basic reports are come into the normal range, then he will ask you to watch your body signals closely, even if after that, for further 48 to 72 hours, see other any symptoms like diarrhea or loss of smell or taste, or what is called as a backache or fatiguability or throat pain or cough, constitutional symptoms of COVID-19 are developed or not. And if they are developing in near 48 or 72 hours, then you immediately contact the doctor and he will guide you about which kind of test is advised. Because many a times in initial 2 to 3 days, if you directly jump onto the RT-PCR test for COVID-19, it comes falsely negative.
True.
The viral load of initial phase is very low, which cannot be predicted by RT-PCR, and so even if the patient is COVID-19 positive, your RT-PCR test comes negative.
So even if we have not gone for the test, what are the things like we inhale steam? Somebody asked, can we do steam inhalation? What are the other things that we do while waiting for those right time to go and test?
Yeah, you can start all general precautions. If you feel like that I'm having a fever and symptoms closely related to COVID and all that, and you just go to the doctor. Meanwhile, you just self-isolate for that duration. Then you start taking warm water, lime water. Then you start taking steam inhalation. Take care of your food habits on those hours. Take a sound sleep and watch for your body signals closely. Monitor your temperature, monitor your oxygen saturation. So these are the common things we have to take care. You have to give thorough respect to your body signals. You need not to ignore any symptoms.
So oxygen saturation, is that measured once in a day? What is the frequency?
Yeah, oxygen saturation comes in a later stage when already the patient becomes positive. But if you feel like breathing in difficulty, or if you feel like that after walking a certain step only I am having a difficulty in breathing and all, you feel like I have a throat pain and difficulty in breathing, then you start thinking that I need to measure my oxygen saturation, and if it is falls below 95% or 94%, which is a what we call as a borderline 90 to 94 or 95%. So any healthy individual should have a more than 95%. But that is also very tricky because you need to understand that which kind of these small gadgets, you have to have a proper pulse oximeter of a good company which gives accurate result, because many times there are local company made oximeters. They are giving very variable results. If you measure in a 1 hour, if you measure 10 times, it gives 9 times a different result. So these kind of things are there. So you have to have a proper gadget which can give you accurate result, and this comes in a later stage. If you have a throat pain, cough, and you have already developed some what you call as a difficulty in breathing and all that. So these are very called aggressive symptoms of COVID.
Okay.
At that time, you need to monitor your oxygen saturation with pulse oximeter. So initial phase doesn't require, but if you feel like that these are the respiratory symptoms already developed, then you need to measure, and you have to have go consult your doctor first. So that is the only thing. As early as possible, you need to inform your family doctor, take their appointment, and go there, or video consultation, whatever the way you prefer, and then take the proper guidance from your family doctor. So he will be in a position to guide you according your body stature and weight and everything, because the family doctor knows your body much more than any other else. He knows what kind of allergies you have since all these years, what kind of diabetic medication you are taking, what kind of hypertension you have, what is a different type of disease you are acquired in every monsoon. So he is the best judge.
So, doctor, one other thing, like, what are the things that somebody who is like family is alert now that anytime COVID can happen to us, or we just prepare? What are the things that we should keep our reports, and what are the other things that we can just? It may be somewhere that we cannot find in the last moment. What are the things we can put together now?
regarding reports and all that.
Yeah, reports and what would be required for hospitalization and
Yeah, actually, so the certain documents, see, when you start treatment of COVID-19, or if you have been advised for some testing for COVID, if your family doctor thinking on that track that this may be the symptoms of COVID-19, and you may be to have a go for a testing and all that. At that time, you have to follow the instruction of your family doctor, and you need to inform your family members to have certain documents handy, like your Aadhaar card copy, which is required for your RT-PCR testing. Then your any other Aadhaar card is mandatory for RT-PCR. Then your insurance policy, if you have a Mediclaim policy, then it should be handy, because once you admit within 24 hours, you need to inform the TPA that I'm admitted in this hospital for COVID care. So it should be intimated within a certain duration of time. So then you need to inform your close family members and at least one or two. If the family is not in the same town, then you need to inform your close 2 or 3 contacts or friends, because there are so many things required in the hospital once you get hospitalized in aggressive case, like certain injections, certain things which can be taken care of. So you need a support at that time. So these are the things: Aadhaar card, certain Mediclaim policy document, and then some finance arrangement and all that. If you are going for a private hospital setup, and your 2 or 3 good contacts, they should always be in touch with you all the time, so that your support system will be always there.
Okay, any more questions from the audience?
Sir, a very layman question. We say that if we kind of develop fever, right? So, I mean, we all kind of Google things so easily. So, what is the normal body temperature and what is the a temperature that we should kind of categorize it as fever, and we should kind of then constantly monitor our body temperatures?
98.6 Fahrenheit is our normal body temperature, and up to 99, it should not be considered as a fever. It's considered still borderline. So any fever more than 99 should be considered as a fever, and then you need not to monitor multiple time whole day, unless you have a symptoms like body ache or fatiguability or any weakness or like that. So if you are feeling the actual symptoms, then you start measuring. If you are doing your routine work normally, and if you don't have any symptoms, there is no need for measuring the temperature all the time in a day 5-6 times. So if you are feeling that I am not able to do my routine activities, and I have some dullness, and I'm feeling low or having a fatiguability or weakness, then you start thinking of fever and start measuring your body temperature, and that too on a at regular interval, not so frequently or not so low also. So, it is totally guided by your family doctor, depending upon your symptoms, at which time it appears, and how much your intensity of symptom and all that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mithil.
Thank you.
Najma, Rupa, any questions? Rupa, any questions about Nitin Lele's condition?
Bhumika, there are some questions on the chat people have posted.
Yeah, we covered inhalation, steam inhalation. When sprayed on things, is it safe? Is a disinfectant safe when sprayed on things? Is that the question, Lalita? Particularly perishable things.
Yeah, Bhumika. Good evening, doctor. It was a very nice session, and we got to know many things which we were only seeing it in TV, but we could hear it from you. So when you were telling for sanitation in the house, so I was just worried about the perishable and how do we see that it has been sprayed properly, and whatever eatables, how do we take care of it? So what is the process of sanitization? How they do it?
Okay, in home only, no?
Yeah, in home.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you need to take away all your vegetables and vegetables and all those things. And see, usually as everybody knows that the surfaces which are commonly in comes in contact, like door handles, any door handles, lift switches, then the maximum contactable surfaces in the home, like dining table, chairs, sofa. So these are the common places where most of the family members commonly encounter. They come in contact repeatedly in a day. So these things should be sanitized thoroughly. Okay, there are certain corners, the where if there is a common space in the what we call in a home where people members used to sit together or they take their meal and all that. So those surfaces which are very routinely and very frequently used in our home, they should be thoroughly sanitized because the chances are there that positive patient may be usually come in contact with those surfaces. And as I told you, the surface contamination is less as compared to other routes. But still, we need to not ignore all these aspects. So these are the things, the points to be taken care of. And everybody knows that which are the common areas because of the family is the best judge that they know which are the common areas which are maximum comes in contact with the other family members. So the guy who comes for the sanitization of your home, that you need to guide them. That these are the area you need to sanitize more, and these are the areas where much intense sanitization is not needed.
Thank you, doctor. So I was just specifying on the perishable, doctor, like in the kitchen area, the family is actually spending more time and we are eating. So how do we take care of that?
Yeah, yeah. The in kitchen area, all the eatables and vegetables and all that you have to take away. Then the other things, the platform and other items which are commonly placed at the surfaces, these has to be covered, and then the sanitization of the all raw surfaces should be first done. So that maximum contact of the family members will there at the where we bring the water from the kitchen, the common sink of the kitchen.
Like a Dettol solution can be used with a cloth to wipe the surface, right?
Yeah, they can be used. There are a lot of liquid chemicals available in the kitchen area. We all are every home has been using that since long. So they can be used frequently at those areas. And the kitchen, the sink area, the basin area, then the areas where the platform and all those, they should be vacant, and then they should be sanitized properly, apart from all other cupboards and all that. So you are working there in the whole day, so you know which are the common surfaces where maximum contact is there. So then you guide accordingly. So the sink and from where we take the drinking water, where we cook the food, these are a common area.
Thank you, Ram. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you. Anyone?
Aerosol transmission also, that if from 9th July onwards, the WHO also uploaded the document and they revised the route of transmission document on their website. And they said that in a close proximity, in a close chambers, uh, if one positive patient is there, he can, if he cough or sneeze, he releases a micro droplets also, even if he speaks or if he speaks loudly. So these micro droplets remain in the air, suspended in the air for 2.5 to 3 hours. So the manufacturing plants, those the indoor plants, those doesn't have any direct ventilation or lighting or like that. Closed AC chambers of offices, the gyms and cinema halls. That is why these places still not be open till unlock 2.0, because aerosol transmission is documented, and WHO and CDC also suggest that this aerosol transmission is also one of the route. And that is how we have also encountered all over world such cases that in one the first incidence of that church, the in the church, the prayer was going on, and one positive patient already infected 31 people in the same vicinity. The 16 were hospitalized and 11 with home quarantine in a single event of 4 hours. So spending 3 to 4 hours in a closed chamber, AC chambers where there is no direct ventilation, direct lighting, and one or two positive patients are there in the that place. So if they cough or sneeze, so the even if the employees are maintaining social distance, there are micro droplets are released, which will be remain suspended in the air for 2.5 to 3 hours. So that micro droplets, if inhaled by the other employees or other staff in the same premises, they can also become positive. So that is why government is very much taking precautionary measure to open up the gyms and cinema halls where there is no direct ventilation. So till date the cinema halls are not open. This from today only they have opened up gyms, and they also make a very good what we call as a restrictions of having a how many members you enroll in a one batch, limited number of members, and all those restrictions because of this aerosol transmission only. And it is not still we need to understand all those closed spaces where and still that is why the IT companies have still extended the work from home policy till December.
Right.
Because most of these IT companies having a closed chambers, AC chambers, and closed environment, and a lot of staff working in a small space, sitting together, and not maintaining social distance and all that. So initially they have make a deadline up to 31st July. Now they have extended up to December
Yeah.
because of this aerosol transmission and chances of this route of transmission.
Yeah. So we've come to the close of the session. Any more questions?
Hi, Bhumika and Stella. I have one question for the doctor.
Sorry, doctor, do you have time? Because we have finished the 1 hour. If you have time, we can take it. Otherwise, we'll take it offline.
Okay, it's okay. Carry on, Stella.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. Sure. Doctor, we received the insurance details from our corporates. In that, there is something called condition without comorbidity and without with comorbidity. What is the difference between that, doctor? Because we asked with them and they haven't responded yet to our query. So what is the difference between those two things, without and with?
Yeah. So as I told you, the patients with having the comorbidity, like comorbidities are basically diseases which are of a long-term durations, and patient is taking medication since long for those diseases, like diabetes, blood pressure, like hypertension, then kidney failure, then cancer, or any other chronic illness. So comorbidity means the diseases which are of a long duration, and the patient is taking treatment for all these diseases since long. So patients who are having comorbidity have a little higher risk of developing COVID-19 complications as compared to the patients who don't have any comorbidity. So that is why even insurance companies and all these corporates are asking about that how many employees in their company are having comorbid comorbidity and how many having no comorbidity. So according to they calculate the risk ratio of the patient acquiring COVID-19 infection.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, doctor.
So, thank you.
All right, so let's close the session now. Thank you, doctor, for your valuable time in your taking time from your busy schedule. It was really insightful session. And I would like to point out to the audience that there's a quiz which will follow by email, which you'll have to complete, and pass mark is 60%. So look out for the mail, and see you all in the next session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Have
you
a nice day.
very much. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Cheers, everyone. Nice weekend.